we've done, I think our biggest order was like a 10,000 piece order. And what did I do? I fit as many of them as I could onto a build plate. And then on the shelves, they're shiny. So I used a dry erase marker to just tick marks how many prints I've done. And we knew that we would go over. So it was a 10,000 piece order. We were doing like 80 pieces per build. They're very small parts. I was like 80 pieces per build. And I think we delivered something like 10,200 pieces. And the deal was I was not quality checking any of them. I wasn't going to take my time.
Good deal.
Yep. I would provide extra and I would replace any free of cost if they didn't meet the quality standards of the individual. But since these were all, they had some custom handwork that needed to be done to them afterwards. They had to put a piece of Velcro on them. And I said, if you find pieces that don't meet your quality standards when you're doing the Velcro thing, put it to the side and I will replace it free of charge. You have a 200 piece start. If you need more, let me know. They never needed more. They actually said we ended up, they had less than 50 quality issues on a 10,000 piece order.
That's fantastic.
Yep. So they were happy. I was happy since, I mean, dude, quality assurance on that many pieces, that's a full-time job for somebody.
It takes so much time. Yep. It takes so much time.
I wanted to literally do the parts, put the build plate over a box, flex it, parts go into the box, build plate, Windex to clean it, next job, boom, 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 boom. Because it's the only way that we would have made money, because those pieces, we were charging like 50 cents a piece for them at that price point. And it was the only way we were going to make money on the job. And
I think the cheapest I've ever charged for anything was £2.50 per part. And those were for batch printing, couple hundred.
Yeah, this is 10,000 pieces.
10,000 is a bit different, but
yeah. And you're looking at like
any level less than like £15 a part. You don't want to be quality checking. Like the quality check will spend all that money and time.
Absolutely. Yeah. Even just flipping them over to see if the bottom looked okay, it would take more time than it was worth. It would take up space, the space. And what if you accidentally started using the wrong box for the bad ones, and you now have to go through all the good ones again? Like, dude, it is simply not worth it. And when we look at that, my price. So they actually negotiated the whole thing of they wanted a much better price, but they didn't want me to check it. And so the deal was that I would over deliver a little bit and they would pay me a better.
50 pence a part is still very cost effective.
Well, especially when those 80 pieces only took 4 hours.
Whoa,
I was making $10 an hour effective on machines. That's
nice.
Great money. Yeah, the parts, I mean, they were super, super tiny parts. So they were about the size of a US quarter. Very, very small parts. And like this, it made sense to 3D print because we could get it done faster than injection molding could, because they didn't have to cut the mold. It was like a 3-week wait to cut the mold. What they ended up doing is they took the 3D printed parts, they sold them at a profit. Then as they were selling their 3D printed parts, they got an injection mold made. So we provided just-in-time manufacturing for them. But when we effectively hit that $10 an hour, I said, that's probably good. And I don't have to do any checks on it. Yeah, you know what? That's pretty good. And at the end of it, I was very happy with the amount of money that we profited net on that job. I was very happy with the amount of money that we profited net. But if you're on Etsy, that's not how this works. You have to say what you're willing to sell it for. Then somebody else has to say whether or not they're willing to accept it. Somebody asked me if like a Vision Miner 22 IDEX would be appropriate for a business like ours. And the answer is yes. So, like I can't wait for the Construct 2 to come out, because like that is actually appropriate for my business.
I've been teasing Grant with like unreleased details, and we're gearing up for a public release.
You're lucky we have an NDA. Otherwise, I'd be Leaker McLeakerson over here. But that machine to me solves a lot of the problems that exist. And while the 22 IDEX does present a different solution, it can do peak, peck, and ultim, right? We are set for what we need right now for all of that. We don't need more than that right now. So yeah, the way that I look at it, we will at some point. We were kind of hoping. Now, I'm not going to get political on this. It's just statistics. So if you think it's political, it says more about you than me. But traditionally, when we have a Republican president, we as a company will invest more into ITAR tech jobs and like tech work that we do, because Republicans spend more money on defense. In Democrat presidencies, we often look to do more biotech work, right? So we're looking at stuff in that world. I don't want to get too specific because I'm not trying to give away too many secrets here, but unfortunately, we've had a lot of our contracts doged. And not only does that mean we're no longer doing it, but it means we are absorbing all the costs associated with it. Eventually, the contract will pay out whether or not the job is completed because it was put on a hold by a government organization and not by us. We still have to kind of continue it, and we work with the client to decide what they want to do. Right now, all the clients are in like, yeah, we can't do anything about it. If it doesn't come back, then you guys just make your money. But we've had to absorb over $15,000 in personnel time that we can't bill. So for us, a 22 IDEX was on my buy list this year. I was going to try to get one from Vision Miner, but if they weren't going to give me one, I was just going to buy one. But now I'm not. I've had more than a Vision Miner 22 IDEX worth of expenses because of things that got taken away from me. So as a business, we're saying, all right, we're done with this. We will wait till it all blows over. Whatever happens, happens. And if we need to get reactivated, we get reactivated. But right now we're not. But we have other means of producing income. So these Etsy businesses that are one-trick ponies, if Etsy does shut you down, what the hell are you going to do to survive? What are you going to do to survive? We have other methods of making money. We have other clients. We have other verticals that we work in. We do 3D scanning. We do CAD design. We do reverse engineering. We do all of these things, right? YouTube does not make us money. To be clear, that's why we actually still ask you guys to donate and everything like that. YouTube does not make us money. Yep, like and subscribe. It is a loss leader for the company. But it is something that for me personally is so rewarding because of the lovely support.
I don't know. I want to be
viewers
mean.
and donations.
I just want to say, like, if you're on Etsy and your entire income is selling tat, and Etsy goes, you know what? No more tat. We only want quality. That's on you. Like, I can't put it enough. Like,
you don't put all your
like
eggs in one basket.
I like empowering people to do what they want, but if your idea of doing what you want is going down to your local shop and selling the same thing as your supermarket in the supermarket, that's on you when you don't earn any money. Like, find your niche, find what you enjoy doing. Don't just take somebody else's design, somebody else's filament, somebody else's optimized slicer settings on somebody else's printer, on somebody else's slicer, printing a part which you have basically just gone done, and then go, it's mine. It ain't yours.
You have
I
a
will die on
license
that
to
hill.
produce. Well, you have a license to produce at best, and that license is vague at best as well.
I still don't like the licensing side of additive. I wish there was better because it protects the creators of the licensed work better. We just aren't in that industry. Like, it just doesn't exist. I think it might take 10 years. It might take 15. I would like to see DRM added to consumer grade machinery because it allows for makers to make things and not worry about somebody stealing it, putting it on printables, and then you printing 5 million of them and you can't do anything about it.
Yep.
I don't think it'll ever happen from the community side. I think it'll probably happen in the legislature side. Like, probably the EU will sit in and go,
not in the US.
You know what? Not a lot of people know about the printers that we have. We actually do have protection on our machines, more so than any other company from what I've seen. Now, our printers are not open source, but for the sake of this argument, I'm going to say that they're open source because you can access the files with a Google search. You can go on our GitHub and you can get our CAD files for our printer, our manufacturing files that we use in-house. You can get the licenses for everything. You can also get the firmware on our machines. Like, our secret source is publicly available with a caveat, but that caveat does not matter for this conversation. How did we protect ourselves? So China didn't come along, take our exact design and make it 10 times cheaper because they've got weight of engineering behind them. We have the equivalent of IP protection. It's not IP protection, it's too expensive. We have a design protection on the printer. That covers the materials. It covers the shape. It covers the form factor. It covers the aesthetic vibe. And I use the word vibe literally. It covers if somebody else wanted to make a machine that looks anywhere similar to what we do, like we squint at it, we are protected from that. That is also part of what people need to be aware of when you look into the terms and conditions. When they're saying you need to own the design, it needs to be your design. It's not saying you can't have a pattern or a file that somebody else made and you licensed, because the word design does not imply it is the 3D printer file. It is the entire output what that 3D printer makes. So I just want to put a little bit of
and that's a big deal. There are ways to protect things that aren't the normal way, right? And you guys have taken it in a way that it makes sense for you, but it also enables you to do things that are not counterproductive for the
Mm,
industry. And that's literally why we agreed to work with you in the first place, was not just because I think you have a cool machine, but because I believe you have a unique way of looking at intellectual property that is not counterproductive, right? We look at intellectual property in this industry as historically being exceedingly counterproductive. And
mm,
you all have done it in a way that I don't believe is counterproductive. And you openly try to work with people that could be in violation so that they don't have to be, or there can be a license. It doesn't have to be expensive and things like that. You work so that you're not trying to stop others from doing what they're doing. You're just trying to make sure that they're staying
mm.
inside of their guardrails. And I've
Like
always appreciated the hell out of that.
the reason I brought it up was, other than it's a really nice thing to talk about, I like the
Hmm.
nuance of legal things, is when Etsy says you need to be the designer, it doesn't imply in any words in that sentence that
Yep.
you have to be the 3D modeler that made the model which you then print. That is a very different thing. Design is more than the file. Now, I think this is also a little bit of like Ouroboros, like the snake eating its own tail,
Yep.
where the reason that comment said you need to be the designer, and they said it in a way that implies the printable file, is because they see the parts that are being copied as cheap, and that is the only thing that is unique about
Yeah.
it.
I think they
Is
see it as devaluing their platform.
exactly.
Yeah.
So Etsy might not change anything on the 3D printing side, because you might say, no, it is my design. I made a decision on the material that this is made. It is custom. It is my design of this stencil, because you can just transfer it. If you can
Yep.
do the same argument in a different form factor, I think that's okay. Like if you go, oh yeah, I used the same wood bowl stencil for my hand lathe, they are gonna look the same. But my design was, I did it in rosewood, or I did it in sapele, or I did it in African blackwood because I'm so baller I could afford the license to buy that. Like that is also design, is the other choices that imply.
Well, my
So
assumption here is Etsy means the literal, like, you need to be designing it. And so like but will they enforce it? That's the only thing that we have to figure out with time, is will they actually enforce it? Yes, there is some devaluing happening, but again, Etsy still makes their fees. So who cares? Let me see some of the other comments on here. Annabus520 said, I think this is a great change. Think there's way too much trash on Etsy that floods the market. I can see Etsy
yeah.
doing it one of two ways. People report others using their designs, or two, Etsy sees 5 billion identical dragons, take down all the stores and send them all a PM asking for proof of design. What I do think would be a great touch would be that sellers can team up with designers and get a reference on their page and be allowed to use their dragons. I think it's going to be hard on a lot of businesses at the start, but will get better for everyone in the end. Dude, I love that idea,
That was
where
a, I literally, I would like that.
if you're selling somebody else's intellectual property and you have a license to do it, that you are required to state it and link back to them. Like, it's like, 3D
I mean,
Musketeers in
um,
partnership with Lucky 13 selling the Dummy 13.
yeah, it's
Like,
like, so
dude, that'd be
Alibaba has
so
something
good.
similar that
That'd
is
be
really
so
good,
good.
which is when you have accreditation by Alibaba, you actually have a certificate with a date and a tracking number that you publicly show. And that could work for this. Like if you have let's say it's Cinderwing, because everybody knows of a Flexi Dragon, because honestly, they're really adorable, and the stuff Cinderwing makes is actually quite
Yeah,
cute.
they're pretty cute.
Like if she sent out just like an email blast that is just, thank you for purchasing this. Here is your unique shop ID, so you can tell who is who. It is valid from this date to this date. And then Etsy has to have that next to the file. So it's somewhere like just on the right. It doesn't have to be big. It could just be a drop down button. It just says you have a license that's agreed for this time.
Dude, amen.
That's it.
Like,
That would fix all the
that's
issues.
dude, if they did that, I'd be praising him to the end of my day. Because like the designers get like no credit, right? They just get their $10 a month or whatever it is. And don't get me wrong,
Yep.
Cinderwing 3D has like 40,000 or 4,000. They have a ton of Patreon members.
I mean, they
Um,
got me as one.
yeah, like but they could have more if people knew where the files came from. That would be a really cool way of doing it.
That would be
I
quite good.
like that. I like that comment.